All right, let's just get it out of the way. Another school shooting, another young man radicalized, apparently, by far-right extremism. And surprise, he was reportedly obsessed with Trump, Turning Point USA, and white supremacy. This time it happened at Florida State University. 2 people are dead, 6 injured. And the shooter, a 20-year-old student who reportedly admired Hitler and was part of Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. But why don't we keep pretending that drag queens and library books are the real problem, the real radicalizing force in the United States? Here's what we know. The shooting happened just before noon on April 17th at the Student Union building at Florida State University. The shooter showed up with 3 firearms, a handgun, a shotgun, and a third weapon that at last check is still being identified. He shot and killed 2 men. Robert Morales, the longtime FSU dining director and assistant football coach, and Tiru Chaba, a regional VP for Aramark. 6 others were injured, including a grad student who was shot while fleeing. Police responded in 4 minutes and shot the shooter after he refused to comply. Last report is that the shooter is in the hospital and not speaking. Here is an interview with an individual who knew the suspect, and here's what he had to say. Certainly not an unclear message.
The suspected shooter has been identified by police as an FSU student by the name of Phoenix Eichner. I know it's a big school. Did you happen to know him?
So I spent my first 2 years at Tallahassee, now called Tallahassee State College, but we called it TCC. And I was the president of a political talk group we called the Political Roundtable, and he joined the club when I was at TCC. Basically our only rule was no Nazis, colloquially speaking. And he espoused so much white supremacist rhetoric and far right rhetoric as well, to the point where we had to exercise that rule. I also know he was a member of the TCC Turning Point chapter. And since TCC, I have seen him in passing a couple times. Today, I was talking to a friend who had talked to him yesterday, or 2 days ago, pardon me. And he was talking about how he wasn't ready for exams.
To be clear, Reed, I just want to make sure that folks understand this. So you were a transfer student essentially into FSU, right? So you started the first 2 years in Tallahassee, and that is where you knew Phoenix Eichner, the suspected shooter here. And you say that he was essentially, it sounded like, kicked out of a political club that you were in because of his as you described them, views on white supremacy?
Yes, ma'am. So it wasn't necessarily a formal kicking out, but okay. He was asked not to come back, and was really what had happened was we had, it was a debate back and forth. And after enough times, I mean, he did not feel welcome because he was not welcome with his rhetoric. We allow people of all, beliefs, creeds, whatever. And he somehow found a way to not fit the bill on everyone else.
So what went through your mind, Reed, when you heard that police had identified the suspected shooter in this instance as this individual who you had known for a couple of years?
Initially, pure, unadulterated anger. To think that someone I knew had essentially made me a statistic. To think that, I had conversations with him at a normal level and, person to person. And for it to turn into this, I don't know why he would have done something like this. I don't know where it would have come from, but I'd sure like to find out.
The guy's background seems to read like a walking MAGA manifesto, known on campus for pushing far-right white supremacist views, kicked out of the student group, as was mentioned there. His stepmother, a Leon County Sheriff's deputy, gave him access to the guns that he used, and also a fan of Turning Point USA, which is, of course, this overtly Trump-aligned student group run by Charlie Kirk. Trump was asked about this. Here's what he had to say.
2 deceased following that shooting at Florida State University. Following and amid that, is there any changes that you want to see to gun legislation? Anything you see broken with gun laws in our country?
I'm going to have to look. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I
Important thing to clarify after mass shootings.
protected it, and these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting. The people do. It's a phrase that's used probably too often.
I agree. It's used too often. He's right.
I will tell you that it's a shame. I'm just hearing about it now. I just hear about it. I know the area very well. I know the school very well. I know everything about it. It's Florida. And we'll have more to say about it later.
And of course, the only wealthy country in the world that has this seemingly inevitable problem. This wasn't random. This was radicalization enabled by a political movement that doesn't just tolerate extremism, it thrives on it. We'll see once Trump knows more about it, what sort of thing he comes up with to say. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out the Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.